Hello everyone, and welcome to your first of two You Pick Tuesday videos. Shaun Clarida versus Lee Priest, the battle of the giant killers. I've been waiting for this one. So what started this all? Well, Lee Priest was on, of course, RX Muscle, Dave Palumbo's show, and he stated that Shaun Clarida should not be called the giant killer. I remember this video was quite a while ago, because Shaun Clarida is a 212 athlete, and Lee Priest was, he's a couple inches taller. Not much, actually. I'm surprised. Only 2 inches taller. But he was competing against all of the big guys in the 90s. So he was a legit giant killer. So Shaun Clarida goes and steps up to the plate at the Legion Sports Fest, and he won the bloody show. So he defeated, namely, two top pros, Sergio Oliva Jr., and Regan Grimes, two big dudes for sure. So who's the real giant killer? I mean, this is Lee Priest, of course, at the 2006 Ironman, one of my favorite versions, most conditioned, I think, and he's going to need that type of conditioning to defeat a Shaun Clarida. Let's face it, at first glance here, Clarida does appear to be more conditioned. Now, don't get me wrong, I am Mark's Max Muscle, and the first thing I notice is calves. And if you're judging on calves alone, Lee Priest, this is the most dominant matchup I've ever seen. But still, guys, you can't ignore that type of conditioning. And Clarida looks good, too. Now, here's a 1997 Mr. Olympia, because I'm sure some of you guys will ask, why didn't you use the 97 Mark's Max Muscle? Well, the picture quality, not the best, and this is pretty much the only front-on shot. And to be honest, I think the conditioning of the 2006 was a little bit tighter. Let's go through these poses. What an interesting matchup. I'm surprised to see Lee Priest wasn't that dominant in size. He is a lot thicker. Actually, food for thought. He was on Dave Palumbo's show once again. One of my favorite shows, guys. I always watch that. But he said that he was surprisingly light. And I'm not even going to say the weight that he said, because he was arguing with people on his own weight, so I don't want to end up sounding foolish. But he wasn't 220 pounds like a lot of people thought. He was not, actually not even close to that. But anyway, guys, structurally speaking, he is dominant over Clarida. But Clarida looks pretty good here at the Legion Sports Fest. One of his best versions. Actually, it was, in my opinion, his best version. So he does, it's more of a matchup than I'm sure a lot of you guys would have suspected, with the conditioning edge going to Clarida. Go to the side here, side chest development, and you'll notice I used a 2020 of Clarida. And, it's a You Pick Tuesday, guys. It's not that serious about, sticking with one solid version. Structurally speaking, I have to say Lee Priest is dominant in this matchup. And he looks pretty conditioned here from the side, I have to say. Looks pretty darn good. So size-wise, look at the arm. I mean, come on. Lee Priest, he's a beast. He's like one of them Australian, one of them, maybe a Wolverine? No, not no Wolverine. A dingo? No. Anyway, side tricep, and neither one of these pictures is something to write home about, I guess. The picture quality. Can't see the conditioning, or lack thereof, maybe, for Lee Priest. It's just not a good angle for Lee. Actually, let's bring up a different version for a side tricep. What the heck? And you can definitely see what I mean. It was not giving Lee a fair shake in the 2006 Ironman, even though overall it is the best version in my opinion. Just the side tricep anyway, was just not a good angle. Wow, 97 Hungarian or Hungary Grand Prix. Grand Prix Hungary. I apologize, guys. Just overwhelmed. This is a dominant pose, and I'm sure some of you guys are going to wonder why I didn't overall use the Grand Prix Hungary, or Hungarian Grand Prix. Anyway, I'm sure they're not hungry. But either way, guys, this is a dominant pose for Lee Priest, no matter how you look at it. Go to the back shot, back lat spread, and this is where anybody that watches bodybuilding nowadays, an avid, fan, and sees what the judges are judging and rewarding, knows that this is pretty much all she wrote. And I'm sure Lee Priest would even agree to that term. Look at the conditioning of Clarida. The glutes, Now keep in mind, for Lee Priest, this is top tier condition. There's definitely some striations in those glutes. Little bit anyway, but nowhere near the shreds and peel that Sean Clarita has. And look at the back, my soul. My soul! Back double bicep. This is basically the same thing. Now keep in mind, guys, this was a very conditioned version of Lee Priest. Look at them arms, mate. And Lee's talking about Clarita's arms. Look at the delts. Look at those delts. Very impressive. For the size of the guy, he maximizes every pound that he has. Here's a 97, Mr. Olympia, just in case any of you guys were wondering. Showed a front double and a rear double. He was thick. He had actually lower lat insertions for sure. He was younger. But he was a little bit smoother, a little bit soft. Gorilla. But he had a salamander haircut too. But anyway. Go to the Hebs and Thigh. Lovely Priest. I'm not making fun of him. Just, that's what he would say. Get his salamander hair there, Lee. Little bit shorter now. He had a Mr. Burns haircut at one point. Mr. Burns. Smithers. A Hebs and Thigh would most certainly go to Lee Priest. Even though conditioning of Clarita, not to be contended with here. Look at the quads. Thin skin, things of that nature. Unbelievable. But keep in mind, I like the aesthetics in a bodybuilder. I like flow, natural looking, physiques, and that six-pack that Lee Priest has for a thick mass monster. One of the smallest waistlines. I don't know why too many people overlook that fact. Lee was a monster. Now, there's two ways of looking at this, guys. This most muscular, most certainly, in my opinion that is a Lee Priest shot. I made him a little bit shorter here, and it's probably going to be debatable. You see he's bending at the knee slightly, stepping forward, takes a little bit of his height away, and Clarita stands very tall in a lot of his shots, because a lot of you guys have debated his 5'2" status, claiming he was under 5 feet tall. But either way, he stands 5'2". He stands taller. Sizes up pretty well against Lee in a lot of shots, but not this one. Overall conditioning of those quads, though, definitely a Clarita, matchup as far as the conditioning is concerned. And in a realistic judging, listen up here, guys. In a judged atmosphere, Sean Clarita, of course, he would win this one. This day and age. No doubt. The conditioning, guys. The conditioning is going to win over the structure or the size, the muscle. Clarita is no small potatoes as far as the muscularity is concerned. But who is the true giant killer? Who deserves the moniker, the nickname, the giant killer? In my opinion, it has to be Lee Priest. Now, I'm going to explain why, so pick up your freaking ears here. Lee Priest has victories over Paul Dillette. What was he, 7'4"? Well, he was over 6 feet for sure. Jean-Bidon Pierre Fuchs, he has victories over that big Hostetler stud. One of the biggest dudes ever. Marcus Ruhl. They don't get much bigger than Marcus Ruhl, the German giant. He's defeated him. And speaking of German giants, Gunther Schlierkamp. The guy was, 6'2"? Just massive. 300-pound. Nas Harrelson body, another 300-pounder. Go ahead, throw them at him. And Lee Priest defeated all of those guys. Not to mention, former Olympia champion, 8-time Olympia champion Ronnie Coleman. Of course, it was before he reigned as champion, but he still defeated him, guys. And another, no, they weren't giants, but Dexter the Blade Jackson and Jay Cutler. A couple other guys on his list of defeats. He defeated all of those guys. And, with a resume like that, and it was the time. He wasn't as conditioned back then, or they weren't as conditioned, in my opinion. And I know that's going to rub the 90s fans the wrong way. But as far as the back shots, they weren't. But for his time, Lee Priest was the giant killer, and in my opinion, still remains so. At least until Clarita, starts taking out some some names like, Dillette and Coleman and Jean Bedon, Marcus Rule, Gunther, Nasser, Dexter, Jay. Anyway. Hit thumbs up on the video, guys, and subscribe to the channel. Have a great day.